Everybody is aware about the conferences. आपके पास ब्रोशर हैं इनके conferences के. Are you aware about the themes also? क्लियर है ना आपको? मार्च और अप्रैल दोनों की कॉन्फ्रेंसेस के अगर कहीं क्लैरिटी नहीं है तो इस लेक्चर के बाद जो अपने कन्वीनर्स हैं यू कैन टॉक टू देम. एक का कन्वीनर है फॉर द मार्च कॉन्फ्रेंस भारती मैम, रचना मैम, एंड फॉर अप्रैल निशा धनराज दीवानी एंड सुमेधा मैम, अनिल गोयल जी एंड निशा सिंह. सो आप इन किसी में से भी बात कर सकते हो कि क्या थीम्स हैं, कौन से आपके जो स्कोपस इंडेक्स जर्नल्स हैं उनकी क्या रिक्वायरमेंट है. ठीक है.
Good afternoon to our Honorable Director Ma'am, Professor Dr. Rajni Malhotra Dheera, respected HODs of various departments and my faculty colleagues. I, Ayush Goyal, Assistant Professor, Department of Business Administration, MEMS, welcome you all on behalf of Antar Vishyak Sampreshan Committee of MEMS. The committee conducts interdisciplinary faculty lectures that aims to foster interdisciplinary learning and engagement among peer faculty members. Today's lecture, titled as Decoding Union Budget, Insights and Implications, is the fourth in this series. To present the same, we have two of our assistant professors from Department of Commerce, Ms. Shreya Garg and Ms. Simran Sharma. Ms. Shreya Garg had completed her BCom Honours from Hindu College, Delhi University and MCom from Shri Ram College of Commerce, TU. With finance being her area of specialization, she holds experience in the corporate sector as well. She has worked previously with companies like Deloitte and McKinsey. She holds a considerable command in various subjects like financial markets and securities, derivatives and economics. Next speaker we have is Ms. Simran Sharma. Ms. Sharma is an MBA from Department of Business Economics, University of Delhi, and graduate in Business Economics from SGTB Khalsa College, again University of Delhi. She has recently submitted her PhD thesis in Humanities and Social Sciences at Banasthali Vidyapeeth, Rajasthan. Her expertise lies in business statistics, econometrics, quantitative analysis. She has also worked as a research assistant on an ICSSR funded project and as an analyst at Dunnhumby. Her research work has been published in reputed Scopus and APDC index journals. I would request all the faculty members to kindly give a huge round of applause and welcome both the speakers of today.
First of all, thank you so much, Director Ma'am, HODs, to give us the opportunity to present a session on budget. As we all know that this coming 1 hour, we are going to decode all the changes and amendments that have been introduced this year. Starting with the motive of the budget this year, it is based on 7 motives. Number 1, to make India a global manufacturing and technology hub. Number 2, to attract foreign capital and talent. Number 3, increase voluntary tax compliance. Number 4, to widen the tax base instead of tax rates. 5th, to promote ease of doing business. 6th, to support formalization of economy. And 7th, long-term growth over short-term revenue. Before I start with the decoding, I would state 3 facts. Number 1 being that the GDP, the government has estimated a nominal GDP growth rate of 10% this year. Revenue deficit will be 1.5% of the GDP, which is almost equal to the previous year's GDP, and the fiscal deficit will be 4.3% of the GDP. This year, government has decided that they will target to reduce their debt and borrowing up to 50% of their GDP till the year 2031. This year, the debt and the outstanding liabilities of our country stands 55.6% of the GDP. These are the figures, and now we start with the main tax proposals in the finance bill. Number 1, the income tax slabs. There have been no change in the income tax slabs. It is just the same as previous years. Number 2 is tax holiday. What is a tax holiday? Tax holiday is basically tax exemption that is given by the government so that it can promote the production in a particular sector. Having said that, a tax holiday until the year 2047 has been granted to various foreign companies which provide global cloud services using Indian data centers. And it has been promised that when these services will be provided to the Indians, they have to be routed through Indian resellers. Also, the tax holiday for units in International Financial Service Center and offshore banking units has been increased from 10 to 20 years. After the completion of 20 years, these units will be taxed for about 15%. Number 3, the next slide please. Tax on share buybacks. All the share buybacks are now going to be taxed as capital gains. And if the promoter is buying back the share, there will be an additional tax. So, which makes the effective tax rate for 22% if we are talking about a corporate promoter and 30% if we are talking about non-corporate promoters. This tax has been increased especially in the derivative markets. Why? To demotivate people from entering more and more into speculative activities. This is why STT rates have been increased from 0.1 to 0.15 on options, 0.125 to 0.15 on options exercised, and from 0.02 to 0.05 on the futures, to demotivate all these speculative activities happening on stock exchange. Next, deduction against income from mutual funds. What does that mean? Whenever we were supposed to invest in mutual funds, we used to take money from the market. We used to borrow money from the market and we were supposed to pay some interest on that. That money was then invested in mutual funds और फिर mutual funds पे return आता था हमको. Deduction shall be allowed for interest expenditures incurred in earning dividend income or income from mutual fund units. Which means if you now earn any income from mutual fund और उसके अंदर invest करने के लिए आपने पैसा market से ही उठाया है, तो उसकी interest payment का आप deduction claim नहीं कर सकते हो. Earlier, this deduction was allowed up to 20% of the gross dividend or income from mutual fund unit. Next, minimum alternative tax. Again, what is minimum alternative tax? The tax is, let's take an example. If there is a company which is not making very high profits, in such situations, government says that you need to give us tax on the book profits. You need to give us 15% tax on the book profits along with some surcharge. Government has reduced this tax rate from 15 to 14%. Also, now again, as we all have loopholes for every scheme that is available, what did companies used to do in such cases is that whenever their book profits were low, they used to pay advance tax and they used to take MAT credits, minimum ordinary tax के credit ले लेती थी. फिर किसी साल में जब उनका हाई प्रॉफिट होता था और उन पे टैक्स फिर बनता था एक अच्छी खासी अमाउंट का, वो उस टैक्स क्रेडिट का डिडक्शन क्लेम करती थी और डिडक्शन क्लेम करने के अंदर अपनी टैक्स लायबिलिटी उस साल में कम कर देती थी. That is why no credit accumulation shall be available for MAT from 1 April 2026. Next, foreign asset and small taxpayers. What does this mean? There is a disclosure scheme whenever any person who was residing outside India, जब भी कोई NRI इंडिया वापस आ रहा होता था या कोई भी इन्वेस्टर इंडिया वापस आ रहा होता था, तो उन पे एक प्रेशर होता था that they have to reveal all their ESOPs, their bank account, their assets, और उनको अगर वो उन्होंने reveal नहीं करा होता था तो वो Black Money Act में चला जाता था. Since the government right now, as I said in the motive, they have the mindset of expanding the tax base instead of the tax rate. They have announced a disclosure scheme which says that every NRI and every investor who is coming from outside, he will be getting a 6 months window. इस 6 महीने की विंडो में आप अपने एसेट्स के बारे में डिस्क्लोज कर दीजिए, so that you do not come under Black Money Act and there is no penalty or any charge against you. The scheme says so. Next, relaxation for non-residents. There are various relaxation for non-residents. For example, whenever some NRI was coming to India, चाहे उनके operations कहीं भी हो रही हो, उनका tax इंडिया में बनता था. तो the budget says that whenever somebody is coming outside from India and they fall under certain categories, तो 5 साल तक उनको tax नहीं किया जाएगा. They will be given a 5-year space to breathe and to conduct their business in India, post which they will be taxed according to the Indian rules. Next, rationalization of penalty and prosecution. There is a shift from criminal punishment to financial correction, which says that अगर आपने टैक्स के प्रोसीजर, टैक्स के टेक्निकल रूल्स में कोई भी डिफॉल्ट कर दिया है तो पहले उसको सिविल डिफॉल्ट मानकर आपको पेनल्टी और जेल हुई थी। अब आपको ऐसा कुछ नहीं किया जाएगा। देयर इज अ मैक्सिमम जेल पीरियड ऑफ 2 years ओनली इफ द डिफॉल्ट इज ऑफ वेरी हाई लेवल। अदर देन दैट यू विल बी गिवन अ करेक्शन विंडो जहाँ पे आप अपनी टैक्स लायबिलिटी करेक्ट करके उसे पे कर सकते हैं। नेक्स्ट, टैक्स कलेक्टेड एट सोर्स। TCS on remittance of more than rupees 10 lakh for the purpose of education or medical treatment has been reduced from 5% to 2%, which means बाहर से education लेना और बाहर से medical services लेना has now become cheaper. Next, TCS on sale of overseas tour package, including expenses for travel and hotel, has also been reduced from 5 and 20% to 2%, which means बाहर घूमने जाना भी अब has become cheaper. Now we go to the policy highlights. To put the summary for this particular point, I'll just say that individual persons, please everyone must have attention to this point, individual persons resident outside India will be permitted to invest in equity instruments of listed Indian companies through portfolio investment scheme. The investment limit under this scheme will be increased from 5% to 10% for individual PROIs. This is the main highlight for this point. Next slide, please. Next is industry and commerce. A scheme will be introduced to revive 200 industrial clusters through updated technology and infrastructure. So, government has now given even more pressure on 5 schemes, 5 subparts. First is National Fiber Scheme, Textile Expansion and Employment Scheme, National Handloom and Handicraft Scheme, Tech's Eco Initiative and Samarth 2.0. इन 5 इनिशिएटिव्स के अंडर गवर्नमेंट अब रूरल डेवलपमेंट पे बहुत फोकस दे रही है। गवर्नमेंट वांट्स टू ब्रिंग AI into the rural activities so that they can promote employment over there. Also there is champion SMEs, which means champion small medium enterprises, जहाँ पे हैंडलूम, हैंडीक्राफ्ट जैसे बिजनेसेस को प्रमोट करना चाहती है गवर्नमेंट। Next is infrastructure. Infrastructure के अंदर there is one point of main focus which says that पूर्वोदय states of India, the states जो eastern states होती है इंडिया की, उन पे गवर्नमेंट बहुत फोकस्ड और resilient growth चाहती है, due to which government has decided a dedicated freight corridor will connect Surat to Dankuni and 20 new national waterways will be operationalized over the next 5 years. Schemes will be launched for enhancement of construction and infrastructure equipments and for container manufacturing. Next is urban development. CER, City Economic Regions. What are city economic regions? Basically, government knows मेरी पूरी country के अंदर ऐसे कौन से regions हैं which are having high growth activities. जो regions इन growth activity वाले areas के पास होते हैं हम उन्हें city economic regions कहते हैं. They can basically drive their growth from the main city which has high growth rate. So, CER will be mapped based on specific growth drivers with allocation of rupees 5,000 crore per CER over 5 years. 7 high-speed rail corridors will be developed between selected cities. Next is labor and employment. Under this, government has decided that there will be a shift from education to employment to entrepreneur. There will be a shift from education, employment and enterprise. So basically you will be shifting people to develop their own businesses. Also under this I would like to add one more point that the scheme Manrega, under which government used to offer 100 days of short employment in 1 year, that has been changed and now the days for employment will be 125, due to which government expenditure has also increased this year. Next, education. Very unique point under education. The content creation we see on Instagram and Facebook, that content creation is no longer a hobby. That is now a part of your economic activity. Is now decided by the government, for which it is decided that support will be provided to the Indian Institute of Creative Technologies, Mumbai, to establish animation, visual effects, gaming and comic content creator labs in 15,000 secondary schools and 500 colleges. India imports a lot of entertainment activities from outside, and now with the growing OTT and YouTube business, it is decided to create content as an economic activity. Next is energy. Energy point, I'll just read it out to you. It's very straightforward point that outlay of electronic components manufacturing scheme will be raised from rupees 22,919 crores to 40,000 crores. Dedicated rare earth corridors will be established in Odisha, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. Coming to the health, is there next? I think health is in the previous one. Okay, I will tell the health part on my own. So basically, what government has decided this year, we are now going to make healthcare an export service. What does that mean? We are going to increase medical tourism. What is the meaning of the term medical tourism? Medical tourism means bringing more and more foreigners to India so that they can get their medical treatments over here, like heart surgeries, IVF treatments, it could be anything. This time, government has a great focus on increasing medical tourism and making healthcare an export service, due to which 5 university townships will be created in the industrial and logistic corridors. Apart from this, new allied health professional institutions will be established. New allied health professional institution means एक होते हैं डॉक्टर्स और एक हॉस्पिटल में होते हैं वो स्टाफ जो सारी मशीन्स ऑपरेट करते हैं. They are not doctors, but we need such trained staff to operate all the machines. They are called allied healthcare professionals. So new allied healthcare professional institutions will be established in both public and private sectors, such as radiology, anesthesia and behavioral health, to promote medical tourism. 5 regional medical hubs will be established. 3 all India institutes of Ayurveda will also be established. Last, I would say pharmaceuticals is also a very straightforward point. So next is agriculture. Agriculture means there will be coconut promotion scheme. Coconut promotion. That means that government is running a coconut development board, which says that there should be increase in coconut and improve farmers income who are into coconut production and promote coconut based businesses. So that were the main tax highlights. Apart from this, there is one more additional information that I would like to add. Expenditure. The government estimated the expenditure of rupees 53,47,315 crores in the year 2026-27. This is an increase of 7.7%, which means that there will be increase in expenditure, and this increase in expenditure is highly dedicated to the scheme Manrega, which is now called as VVG Ramji. Under the scheme, as I said earlier, the 100 days employment has now shifted to 125 days of employment, of assured employment. And after that also, people who are involved or who have enrolled themselves under this scheme, they will be given funds to start their own businesses. Revenue expenditure is estimated to increase by 6.6% and capital expenditure by 11.5%. The total receipts that government is expecting this year is rupees 36,51,547, which is 7.2% increase from the last year. Now, to bridge the gap from the expenditure and the revenue, there has to be borrowings. So there is a borrowing of rupees 16,95,768 rupees, which is an 8.8% increase from the last year. Apart from all of this, there is going to be transfer of the sale of the money that will be generated. So the central government will transfer rupees 26,20,769 crore to states in 2026 and 27, which is an increase of 12.2% over the revised estimates. Transfer to states include tax devolution and grants and loans worth rupees 10,94,514 crores. Also, along with all the expenditures, government has also decided to raise money through disinvestment. This year, government has made a budget of rupees 80,000 to disinvest. Disinvest means that they are now going to sell their own stakes from public sector undertakings. They are now deciding to sell their stakes from all the PSUs which they have listed under the scheme, and they have created a budget of rupees 80,000. Disinvestment is the government selling its stake in public sector undertakings. In 25-26, the government is estimated to meet 71.9% of its disinvestment target. That means in this particular year they are deciding that 71.9% should be accomplished to the investment target that they are targeting. The disinvestment target for 26-27 is rupees 80,000 crores, higher than the budget target of 25-26. This marks the first increase in the disinvestment target after 5 consecutive years of downward revisions and shortfalls in achieving the target. Now talking about the receipt. In 26-27, the government is estimated to raise a revenue of rupees 36,51,547 crores, an increase of 7.2% over the revised estimate. This is mainly on account of centre's net tax revenue. That means this entire increase of 7.2% is dedicated to the tax revenue that will be collected this year. Gross tax revenue is budgeted to increase by 8% in 26 over the revised estimates. This is lower than the estimated growth in nominal GDP. I hope we all know that nominal term over here means just the growth that is happening along with the inflation. Corporation tax and income tax are expected to grow by 11% and 11.7% over the revised estimates. Revenue from CGST is expected to register an increase of 6.3%. All these are going to be taxed, so they might not grab that much of your attention, but please, you can have an idea of how much increase is happening. Net tax revenue is estimated to be rupees 28,66,922 crores in 26-27, which is an increase of 7.2%. Net tax revenue is increasing by 7.2%, which is actually making the entire revenue grow over the revised estimate. The net tax revenue at the revised stage is expected to be 5.7%, lower than the budgeted. This is mainly due to lower than the budgeted receipt from income tax and GST. 59% of the non-tax revenue, something that is the revenue that the country generates from other sources but taxes, 59% of this revenue is estimated to come from dividends and profits. Non-tax revenue includes interest receipts on loans given by the centre, dividend, license fees, etc. and is expected to be 6,66,228. Apart from this, next slide please. Next slide. Next, I want to come to this. This particular slide shows you that where is basically our money coming from. We have various bifurcations which tells us what percentage of money is coming from what sector, where you can see that borrowing and liabilities are giving us 24%, which is the highest source of money for Indian government. Since it is the highest source of money for the Indian government, in the next slide which shows that where does our money even go, the interest payment is the highest expense for the Indian government. Interest payment is almost equal to 20%, which is almost, which is very slightly lower than the state share of taxes, but yes, very high proportion of our expenditure is dedicated to the interest payments. This is sincerely because of high amount of borrowing that our government is taking. That is all from my side. Now,
could you please go to the previous one? Here, major contribution from the individual taxpayers from the corporate sector. This is the major change that we have witnessed in the current financial year. I think it should also be highlighted.
okay.
First time in the Indian history that has happened that individuals are paying more taxes
More
than
taxes
the
than
companies.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now I'll invite my co-speakers, Simran ma'am.
A very good afternoon to everyone present here. Thank you, Shreya ma'am, for giving us the statistics. I will now move on towards more of the analysis side. So before moving on towards the analysis of the budget and looking at the deficits that the government is having, let's first understand why this budget is important, or why this budget is proposing whatever the rules are there. In the global economy, US is very uncertain right now because daily new news is coming regarding tariffs. So geopolitical situation of the whole economy is dependent upon what US will say. India has to act as a strategic partner to other countries so that other countries cannot just make one rule and it affects the whole Indian economy. Indian economy has to become so important that they are almost not affected, or that they are so important that no country can affect their own economy. So the main purpose of India is to to manufacture everything themselves, to invite more foreign institutional investors, and to be very much strategic and important. So we also see that recently India signed a free trade agreement with Europe. That is also one of the steps towards moving away from US, towards being more independent and towards being more strategically placed into the geopolitical situation of today. Now let's understand the fiscal map of Union budget. At the core, this government has planned to spend a total of 53.47 lakh crore, which is a 7.7 increase from the last year. To fund, it expects to earn this money from its own taxes and receipts. There is a gap between what we earn and what we spend, and that is called the gross fiscal deficit, the total amount that the government needs to borrow this year. So, as an individual, if you are someone who is spending a lot, you may be spending on two things. First is your lifestyle needs. Maybe you need an expensive phone, you borrowed for that. Second is you are borrowing for the purpose of investing into something. So earlier, what government was borrowing was for revenue expenditure, to fulfill its lifestyle needs, to fulfill the day-to-day expenditure. But now the government is moving from expenditure to fulfill the lifestyle need. Now it is moving towards asset creation. So this is the major shift that the government is doing right now, moving away from revenue expenditure, moving towards more capital expenditure and more capital generation. So in the last year budget, we saw that income tax was drastically reduced to increase the public consumption and to boost the economy. But that was not enough to boost the economy. This budget is basically more towards the supply side. A lot of you may be thinking that इस साल budget में कुछ भी नहीं आया. सब ये सोच रहे होंगे इस साल taxes में कुछ भी नहीं हुआ, इस साल budget में कुछ भी नहीं आया. हमको ऐसा क्यों लगता है? क्योंकि हम as an individual हम demand side पे हैं. इस साल बजट डिमांड साइड का नहीं था, इस साल बजट सप्लाई साइड का था. इसलिए हमें लगता है कि इस साल बजट में कुछ नहीं आया क्योंकि हमारे लिए टैक्सेस में कुछ नहीं आया. बट अदरवाइज द होल बजट वाज सेंटर्ड ऑन द सप्लाई साइड. All the things, all the policies that were launched, they were all on the supply side. So consumption versus investment, where the money is going, revenue expenditure is 41.25 lakh crore. These are the bills of the nation, and these are interest on old debts that we have. Interestingly, subsidies के अंदर this has actually gone down, which is rather a good thing. The second bucket is the capital expenditure, capex. So this is getting a good boost, which means good spending. It builds the future, and we can clearly see that roads and railways are the capex on roads and railways have increased a lot, followed by defense. On the revenue side, we see how we earn. So we have bringing in over 35 lakh crore. Most of this come from next taxes, which are expected to grow by 7.2%. We also see a jump in non-debt capital receipt, which is showing a push to recover our old loan or sell our assets to fund our growth. As said by Shreya ma'am, that we are selling our assets to fund the growth. So India's budget strategy from 2022 to 2027 has followed a very disciplined fiscal glide path. This is a roadmap to repair our finances from after the pandemic, which simultaneously double down on our world-class infrastructure. So India is again trying to give world-class infrastructure to everyone visiting here and promoting medical tourism, and for that it needs good infrastructure. Expenditure on private sector needs to be increased. So this year the government has successfully fulfilled its promise to bring down the fiscal deficit below 4.5% by 2026. In the last budget, so it is trimming to 4.3%, which is the government's target. We are reducing our reliance on fresh borrowing. So this basically means that we are not doing more fresh borrowing, and this also helps in controlling the inflation and keeping the interest rate stable for everyone. The revenue deficit tells us about the efficiency. This has also dropped, which means that we are now not borrowing for our daily operations. We are no longer using loans to pay our bills or salaries or pensions. The quality of the budget is given by effective revenue deficit. This has also gone down. This tells the quality check, means every rupee now we borrow is used to create long-term asset like highways, ports, rather than focusing on the admin cost. And the reality is given by the primary deficit, which has also fallen down to 0.7%. This proves that current year's income and spending are nearly in balance. The only reason why it remains a deficit is because the interest we pay on old debts from previous decades. Let's move on to the next. So the total expenditure has overall increased and the government has maintained an expansionary expenditure policy as discussed. Let's move on to the next slide. The budget allocation ministry-wise. The budget allocation ministry-wise remains first to the defense ministry, means it is focusing on protecting the nation's defense, and the second has gone to roads and railways. So why roads and railways? Because as said, it is more focused on the supply side. There were high logistic costs in exporting of the products. When you used to sell something, even if you're driving a car, if you drive it on bumpy roads, it gives less mileage. Whereas if you drive it on a very smooth road, it gives more mileage. Logistic costs, although they are very small, but they add up to the cost of the products. So bringing good roads and good infrastructure of transportation indirectly is helping the logistic and also helping in competitiveness of the export prices. Next. So as seen, first we are focusing on defense, then road and railways, and then home affairs. Other expenditure is focused on central sector schemes, centrally sponsored schemes, and the interest payments and the pensions. So as seen, the rupee goes towards state devolutions. It means that whatever interest is being earned by the center, they are giving it to states so that all the schemes can be implemented from the grassroots levels. Looking at the deficit trends of the various years, the borrowings of the government in 2022 to 2023, the fiscal deficit, it was very high, 6.5%. This was because of COVID. But now it has reached to 4.3%, which is although in numbers it is just 2%, but for government it is a very big achievement. Revenue deficit has also gone down, and primary deficit has also simmered down because interest burden from loans, otherwise it has also gone down, and as discussed, the effective revenue deficit has also gone down from 2.8 to nearly 3%. So this chart basically shows a disciplined shift from emergency survival to quality investment that ensure that India is both a high impact and sustainable for the future. While our economy is growing, the trade deficit also remains a challenge. Next. This trade deficit is because of high reliance on electronic, critical mineral and industry components. To fix this in 26-27, the budget is not just managing numbers, it is pushing our domestic manufacturing capacity. So the strategy is first to reduce our import bill, second to improve the current account balance, and third to build supply chain reliance so that global disruptions don't stall our local industries. The action plan is, again, we are putting our money where our mouth is. That is the manufacturing sector. The government has launched a massive 40,000 core electronic component scheme and kicked off semiconductor mission 2.0. These aren't just subsidies, but they are foundation for creating India a global tech club. We are securing our future through rare earth corridors to ensure that we have a steady supply of strategic mineral which are needed for green energy and tech. We are also simplifying the business environment by rationalizing the custom duties and introducing deferred duty mechanism, making it easier and cheaper for Indian manufacturer to compete on the global stage. So basically what the government is doing that if we are importing a product or a ingredient from outside, the government is saying to the nation that please create this ingredient in the economy itself and don't rely too much on the outside. We are giving you subsidies, we are giving you promotions, you don't rely on the outside. For example, this year the government has focused largely on the pharmaceutical sector where the drugs are being created. A lot of ingredients for the drugs are taken up from China. So to support this as well, the government is also saying that increase the research and development for medical things, so that we don't no longer need to take the things from China or any other country. In the next slide, we see fiscal deficit as a percentage of GDP. So first I will explain why do we see this as a percentage of GDP. Suppose you are a person who is having income of 10 crore and you have a loan of 1 crore. Will it be very difficult for you to pay the loan? 1 crore is a very small amount when a person is earning 10 crore. Similarly, if there is a person who is having a deficit or a loan of 1 crore but their income is only 50 lakh, that says a lot. So we always compare the fiscal deficit with percentage of GDP. Earlier government only used to look at the absolute numbers, but now it looks at the as a percentage of GDP, which represents the government's annual borrowing. So which tells the magnitude how big our economy is and how much it is borrowing. So after a sharp spike of 9.2% in financial year 21 due to the pandemic, you can see a consistent downward trend, and the government has successfully met its commitment for bringing down to 4.4% in financial year 26. For financial year 27, it is budgeted to tighten it even to 4.3%. Even though deficit is shrinking as a percentage of economy in absolute terms, there is an 8.8% rise in actual rupee over previous year, highlighting that we are now more disciplined and the scale of our spending continues to grow. The right side shows debt to GDP ratio. We look at the green and purple chart on the right. Debt to GDP ratio, this is our total credit card balance. So it is related to the size of our economy. This has peaked at 61.4% again in year 21, but now it is growing downward and it has improved to 56.1%. The government target is in the long run to bring it below 50%. For financial year 27, it is 55.6% target. In the long term, this is where the strategy shifts to the future. The government has set a medium term of reaching the target below 50% by 2030 to 31. Why this matter? Because this lowers our interest rate burden. Whenever someone from the outside, any foreign institutional investor is coming to India, they see, is Indian government capable of paying off its debts? Will the government default? The default and loan criteria is very important while investing in any economy. So the reason why this ratio is important is to invite more and more foreign investors. Then let's look at the fiscal math of capex and state evolution. This highlights how the government is prioritizing long-term growth. Capex is increasing and the revised estimates to 12.2 lakh crore in FY27 budget. What is more telling is that the capex to revenue expenditure ratio, it has reached a new high of 29.6%. This confirms that there is a deliberate shift from daily operations spending towards asset creating investment that drive the future prosperity. And also this tells the quality of spending, that now we are spending on assets. Second is supporting of the states. Devolution, turning to the right, we see the composition of transfer to states and union territories. So we see that 26.2 lakh crores have been budgeted to rise towards the state transfers. This means that the grant for states have been increased, means that more and more scheme will be now implemented at a state level. Grant and aids for capex, they are a special type of financial assistance which are given from center to states, which are strictly for the building the long-term infrastructure for the states. So overall we see that these numbers show a stronger union of center and the state, and they have the financial firepower to implement centrally supported growth scheme at the ground level. I will now move on to the conclusion and also what this budget means for the academia. So the conclusion is that we are moving from a consumption-led economy to a production-led and a capital incentive economy. The goal is to correct our trade deficit. In manufacturing and tech leadership, we have the goal is to achieve massive 40,000 crore electronic component scheme, launch of semiconductor mission. In the infrastructure and logistics, we are also planning to reduce the logistic cost to 7.97% of the GDP by our aggressive corridor expansion. Through the energy and the new economy sector, we are running a rare earth corridor. There is also a new term known as orange economy. Orange economy is the creative and service sector economy which will be established by University Township and Creative Economy Lab in thousands of schools and colleges. So this budget balances industrial deepening, digital transformation with strict fiscal discipline. It is a structural blueprint to design a self-reliant India under the Viksit Bharat 2047 mission. For the salaried people, this prioritized stability. The tax slab remain unchanged and the standard deduction is staying at 75,000, keeping your take-home steady. The major update is the perquisite limit hike to 4 lakh, allowing more tax-free employer benefit like housing or education support. For college faculty, we see a shift to the orange economy. So as it is in the union budget, we are focusing on production-led growth strategy, infrastructure and logistic efficiency, manufacturing competitiveness, energy security and strategic autonomy, MSME and industrial ecosystem support, service and creative, which is the orange economy expansion. This orange economy term has been used first time in India itself. It has not become popular globally yet. They are on higher education and as well as research.
So this is the initiative taken by us just for you people, because in our hectic life we tend to ignore so many important things. That is why it is interdisciplinary, and they tell the entire thing in easy language. The first part was so technical, but the second speaker tell the budget in a very layman language, so it's easy to understand. But my request is, when we know that yes, today is a lecture, come on time, because we expect this from the students also. So if we can't come on time, we cannot expect it from the students. So first of all, discipline should bring in, I think so, in ourselves, and only then we can demand from others. So जब आपका lecture है, there is no need, but मेरे पास आते हैं मैम मैसेज डाल दीजिए faculty group में. So I think so, ये मालूम है कि lecture है, मेरे मैसेज की वेट मत करो. 2:45 mean 2:45, right? Unless and until there is a class. So that is a justified reason कि आप late आ रहे हो. पर अगर बहुत late आ रहे हो तो don't disturb the speaker. अगर आपका class है तो 3:30 पे आने का there is no point. Then inform beforehand through your HOD that these faculty members are busy in the class, they will not be able to come. क्योंकि बार बार अगर बीच में आपको स्टूडेंट डिस्टर्ब करता है तो आपका भी जो है लैग खराब हो जाता है, आप पढ़ाते पढ़ाते डिसओरिएंट हो जाते हो. सो द सेम गोज हियर ऑल्सो. बीच बीच में 10 मिनट बाद, 15 मिनट बाद, 20 मिनट बाद कोई ना कोई आ रहा है. तो थैंक्स टू देम कि वो डिसओरिएंट नहीं हुए. अगर मैं होती तो शायद डिसओरिएंट हो जाती. तो बेटर है टाइम पे आए. क्लास है तो पहले से इन्फॉर्म करवा दीजिए HOD के थ्रू, तो हम वी विल मार्क ऑन द अटेंडेंस शीट कि ये टीचर्स बिजी थे, ये आ नहीं पाए. अदरवाइज आप लोग टाइम पे आइए. HODs को भी रिक्वेस्ट है, मीटिंग नहीं है तो वो भी टाइम पे आए. तो बीच में नहीं आना है और बीच में बातें नहीं करनी. अनलेस आपका कोई पॉइंट भी है, टेक इट आफ्टर इट. व्हेन वी आर ओपनिंग इट फॉर द डिस्कशन कि आप क्वेश्चन पूछ लीजिए, एट दैट टाइम प्लीज आस्क क्वेश्चन, यू आर फ्री टू आस्क. लेकिन बीच में डोंट क्रिएट डिस्टर्बेंस. although you are discussing maybe the same point that they are explaining कि ऐसे नहीं ऐसे होगा, but then you are free to ask later on. Don't ask, don't discuss in between, right? So these are my observation, and keep it little, don't keep it so technical. जो first portion था technical था, थोड़ा सा वो disorientation हो जाता है, और जब disorientation हो जाता है तो दूसरा part भी समझने में मुश्किल रहता है. तो keep it easy considering कि आपके पास mixed group है. जो मिक्स ग्रुप है उसमें अगर हम बिल्कुल लेमैन लैंग्वेज में बताएंगे, then it will be easy for to the all of them to understand. और नेक्स्ट टाइम भी जब आप टॉपिक लीजिए, अगर वो बहुत बड़ा है, जैसे बजट बहुत बड़ा है, we can take some portion. Don't take the entire budget in one go. वो तो जब हमारे फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर ने भी किया था 2-3 घंटे, तो शायद उन्होंने भी लगा दिया था. तो we can't expect कि आप 1 घंटे में पूरा उसको एक्सप्लेन कर दीजिए। तो एक पोर्शन 2 पोर्शन आप उसको लेके जो हमारे लिए रेलेवेंट है, जो एकेडमिया के लिए रेलेवेंट है, जो एज ए लेमैन हमारे लिए बजट आप हमारे इनकम की सेविंग के लिए रेलेवेंट है, उस पर अगर हम डिस्कशन करते तो ज़्यादा और प्रोडक्टिव हो सकता था, राइट। तो आगे से जब भी हम इससे रहें तो वी हैव टू टेक अ टॉपिक दैट कैन बी कवर्ड इन 30-40 मिनट्स सो दैट आफ्टर दैट डिस्कशन कैन टेक प्लेस। सो दिस इज अनदर ऑब्जर्वेशन। और एक ऑब्जर्वेशन आप लोगों से कि जब आप ध्यान से सुन रहे हैं तो प्लीज आस्क क्वेश्चन, थोड़ा सा मोटिवेशन मिलता है। जो लोग प्रिपेयर करके आए हैं, मेरे ख्याल से 1-2 दिन उन लोगों ने मेहनत करा होगा, आपके लिए पीपीटी बनाया है, लेक्चर बनाया है। सो अगर आप उसको सुनोगे, इफ यू आस्क क्वेश्चन दे विल फील मोटिवेटेड। तो नेक्स्ट टाइम से थोड़ा सा इंग्रोस होके सुनिए, टाइम पास नहीं करना है कि आज तो मैडम ने कह दिया इट्स कंपल्सरी टू अटेंड, ऐसा मत करिए। ये तो बच्चों के लिए कि वो कई बड़ी मुसीबत में बैठते कि अटेंडेंस मिलेगी, लेकिन आप लोगों के लिए ऐसा नहीं है। आप लोग टीचर्स हैं, तो टीचर से हम एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं कि कुछ नया हो सकता है इन्होंने मिस कर दिया हो, कल को अगर ये फाइनली कहीं प्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं पेपर्स, दे विल गेट सम आइडिया फ्रॉम यू पीपल, जैसे मनोज सर ने दिया कि इसको भी कवर किया जा सकता था। सो दिस विल एनहांस कि मुझे कल को कहीं और प्रेजेंट करना है तो मैं इस पे फोकस करूं। तो ये जो डिस्कशन फोरम है इसलिए कि कुछ आप उनको नया बताएं जो उन्होंने छोड़ दिया, जिसको हम इंक्लूड कर सकते थे, ताकि कल को मैं जब रिसर्च करूं तो उस पॉइंट को भी ऐड करके मैं अपनी रिसर्च को और फ्रूटफुल बना सकूं। तो ये मेरी आपसे एक्सपेक्टेशंस है। नेक्स्ट टाइम फोकस करिए जो उन्होंने छोड़ दिया और जो आपको क्लैरिटी नहीं आई कि इस पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट को और एक्सप्लेन किया जा सकता था, इसको हम कट शॉर्ट कर सकते थे, जितना रेलेवेंट नहीं था, तो ये पॉइंट आप बताएं तो स्पीकर के लिए वो यूजफुल रहेगा। थैंक यू। और कॉन्फ्रेंसेस के लिए आई मेड द अनाउंसमेंट, कंट्रीब्यूट पेपर फॉर बोथ द कॉन्फ्रेंसेस फॉर मार्च एंड अप्रैल 1 कंपल्सरी है। मिलके लिखिए, स्टूडेंट्स के साथ मिलके लिखिए, टीचर्स के साथ मिलके लिखिए, इंटरनल फैकल्टी के साथ या एक्सटर्नल फैकल्टी के साथ, पर लिखना है। स्कोपस इंडेक्स जर्नल आपके पास है, अब कोई एक्सक्यूज नहीं है कि हमारा पेपर पब्लिश नहीं होता है, क्योंकि आपके पास 4-5 स्कोपस इंडेक्स जर्नल है। आई एम ऑल्सो राइटिंग, अगर आपको कह रही है तो मैं भी लिखूंगी, तो आपको भी आर्टिकल लिखना है और उसको पब्लिश भी करवाना है। और मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंटली हमारे यंग टीचर इनिशिएटिव ले रहे हैं। सीनियर के मैंने देखा जितनी बार भी सीनियर से ज़्यादा हमारी यंग फैकल्टी ज़्यादा आगे आ रही है, सो मोर अप्रिसिएशन।
मैम इसका श्रेय मंजू मैम को ही जाएगा, आइडिया मंजू मैम का था।
वो तो है, छोटी को तो नेचुरली